One of my favorite things about reading is being able to recognize myself and to recognize other people in whatever I'm reading. So sometimes novels or poems will be able to put into words an experience or an emotion that I'm feeling in words that I wouldn't be able to come up with on my own. And I think that's really exciting. I also like how reading instantly brings you into a community, because even though you're reading by yourself, you're interacting with the person who wrote whatever you're reading, you're interacting with the characters in the text, and you're also joining a community of people who have read the same thing, which is why I think English class can be really fun. You're able to all talk about the same text. Finally, I think what I'm realizing more and more is reading allows you to go at your own pace. So you can pick up a book, and if you like a passage, you can reread it, or if you're confused, you can skip something and then come back to it later. You can put the book down and do something else and then come back to it. So you're really able to control the experience. Neat. So I started thinking about teaching, I think, when I was in high school, and I actually wanted to be a math teacher first. If you have a good teacher, then you're able to pick these things up really quickly, and then it was only a little bit later that I realized that I wanted to be an English teacher. I became interested in English when I started reading poetry in high school, because poetry just seems so complicated, and I liked that challenge of trying to figure out what a poem was about. I think when I just saw that literary texts were complicated, and I liked working through them kind of like a puzzle, that's what got me excited about studying English. I also enjoyed discussing literature with classmates, because I thought that I could learn a lot from other students, and I was able to learn new things myself just by talking about literature. And finally, I remember having a really difficult time understanding how to write essays, and I didn't really understand what the purpose was, or just how to start. And so when I finally, I think, figured out how writing worked towards the end of high school and then in college, I was like, oh wow, this is really fun. I feel like I'm able to learn things as I'm writing. I feel like I develop a greater appreciation for what I'm writing about. And I know that writing is, I think, a really difficult part of English for a lot of students, and so I like trying to help people demystify the writing process. My favorite book is, I don't know if this counts as a book, it's technically a play, but Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. And I've read this several times. I was actually in a production once in high school, which was fun, but it's wildly funny. One of my favorite parts is where a character is saying, I always keep my diary with me. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. And it's a lot about just people's vanity and stupidity. Anyway, I just think it's hilarious. So my favorite book to teach so far, I think I've enjoyed every text so far for different reasons, but I've especially enjoyed teaching short stories, which has surprised me. I don't usually read a lot of short stories in my spare time, but I think it's cool for students to be able to see both small details in a text, but also see the entire text as a whole. And if you're reading a 300-page novel, it's a little difficult to zoom out and see the whole thing, but with a short story, it's a lot easier, and so you can see character development or plot progression on a smaller scale. So this is book Mama's Boy, Preacher's Son by Kevin Jennings, which is a not very well-known memoir, but so Kevin Jennings was a high school teacher, and he ended up advising the first gay-straight alliance ever, and then went on to found GLSEN, which is the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, and so he's just been a very profoundly important figure in education and also LGBT rights. And so he was giving a presentation in Boston when I was a freshman in college that I went to see, and I was just very inspired by his talk, and so I ended up reading just almost everything that every book that he's written since then, and my favorite was this, which is his memoir. And then a year later, I sent him an email when he was coming back to do the same presentation, and I said that I had read and loved all of his books, and then we were able to actually meet up and chat in about experience and my experience, and then he gave me a list of other books to read, and it was awesome to be able to just be very like affected by a book, and then to be able to meet and talk to the person who wrote it, which is very, very cool. I hope that books will teach my students about experiences that they haven't had, or to help them better understand their own experiences, and also just to understand and appreciate the power and complexity of language. I noticed more and more that reading is actually very difficult, even though it's something that you hope most people can do fairly basically, but it's hard to read and get something out of a wide range of texts. And so I'm hoping that after studying English, students would be able to appreciate and enjoy a lot more literature, just a lot more writing than they would be able to otherwise. I also hope that students can then apply that strong understanding of writing and language into their own expression, so that way they're able to talk and to write in more complicated ways that can have a stronger, more profound effect on other people. It's really cool, I think, to see how language is able to move others, or can change people's minds, or get people to act in better ways, and I hope that's something that my students can experience.